everybody. All right. Welcome to the Mikestand. Today, of course, is Monday, February 2nd, 2026. So, the second day of February. Hopefully, everybody had a good week, and hopefully, some of you had a chance to catch last night's weekly look back at Comics History Lane as we, of course, finished up our coverage of July of comics that went on sale in July of 1940. So we'll be looking starting this Sunday. We'll be starting to look at comics that went on sale in August of 1940. Of course, starting with DC as we always do, and I'll be joined by Rick Piper from Cross Comics for that show. So. Anyways, we're going to, of course, give people a chance to, come in before we get started. If you haven't already, of course, this goes for both my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. If you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, anyways, so I said we're just waiting. So, actually went through and was able to watch all the cartoons that came out in March of 1945 today. I actually got up kind of early this morning, a little early for me, anyways. About close to about 6:40, 6:35, 6:40 this morning, which for me is early. Usually not getting up till like 8 or 9, so. But anyways, let's see now. Among some of the cartoons I watched, one of the first ones is of course Magica Lulu, which is kind of a cute one. Which little Lulu there, basically made a magician regret inviting her up on the stage. The mischievous little girl, not purposefully, of course, but kind of spoiled a lot of his tricks, and he just wasn't too happy about it. With Marvo the magician, the name of the magician in this particular short, you can draw comparisons to interaction that Bugs Bunny would have years later with a magician as well. A magician who happened to decide to put one of his posters up over Bugs' hole, in this case, which was in a tree, opposed to the ground. So, anyway, so now we are just past the 3-minute mark, coming up more on 3.5 minutes. So I guess I can now talk about what's on tap for tonight. So tonight, I got 3 articles I'm going to go over from Bounding into Comics. As it looks like they're coming back like gangbusters. First one we'll be talking about is so Chip Zdarsky has some interesting commentary on the current situation at the Marvel offices. We'll be looking at that, of course. Let's see. Paramount dumps Ren and Stimpy reboot, not helped by disastrous leaks. And then, of course, Mark Waid has indicated he's not really interested in writing an absolute DC book, but does have an absolute Deadman thing I would love to do. So, those are the 3 stories we're going to go over, of course, and we'll also, of course, get caught up on all that happened over the weekend. Of course, WWE had its Royal Rumble on Saturday. We'll look back to Friday Night SmackDown, the Royal Rumble from Saturday, and of course AEW Collision. And then we'll finish things off with this day in each history. So with all that being said, and we're almost up to the 5-minute mark, so I guess I'll go ahead and get ready to get started. Again, a friendly reminder to everybody, on both Rumble and YouTube, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions, and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and go grab the material here to get started. Alrighty then. And here we go. Alright, so Captain America writer Chip Zdarsky says Marvel offices have become, quote, very siloed off because there hasn't been a Bendis, unquote. Bendis. Well, obviously he's referring to Brian Michael Bendis, but let's see. Kind of that will bring up. Okay, well, what does he mean by that? So, article by Spencer Bakuli, published January 30th. So that was this past Friday. So let's see what's going on here with what he Brian Michael Bendis drops the mic on his Earth 616 and Earth 1610 careers on Scotty Young's variant cover to Ultimate N Volume 1, Number 1, 2015. All right. So, and offering a telling bit of insight into the abysmal state of Marvel Comics operations, Captain America, Volume 14 writer Chip Zdarsky says that the former House of Ideas is currently suffering from a significant lack of team communication, with the absence of a Brian Michael Bendis style overseer having resulted in each of its creative offices essentially doing quote unquote their own thing. So I guess he's saying that because Brian Michael Bendis hasn't been around, the in-house communication has not been as good as it was with him there. I guess that's what he's getting at there. Zdarsky, who prior to helming the Star Spangled Avengers' latest run, was in charge of Daredevil's Devil's Reign era, made public note of this crack in Marvel's production style during the debut episode of Chip Chat, a new series which will see him sitting down for monthly interviews with off-panel podcast host David Harper. Speaking to his work penning the publisher's upcoming Armageddon event, Zdarsky told his host that when it came to such company-wide arcs, quote, my favorite events come out of the story, unquote. Quote, I think World War Hulk is one of those where it's like Greg Pak just wrote like an amazing Hulk story, did Planet Hulk stuff, and then like it just felt like a natural end to that. The Hulk coming back for revenge, essentially, and that was big and it was huge and it followed on a couple of years worth of really solid stories, unquote. Pointing to his aforementioned Devil's Reign for a concrete example of his creative approach to events, Zdarsky explained that the stress level story, quote, kind of felt a bit like that, unquote. Quote, I remember when I was kind of pitching what was coming up in Daredevil, as soon as I kind of started to talk about those events, you could just see it in like the eyes of like the editors, where they're like, in smaller quotes here, oh, okay, this could be bigger. than just contained within the pages of Daredevil. And then you kind of you rewrite based on that a little bit. You include more characters and kind of make the stakes a little bit bigger. Unquote. Hmm. I wonder when he's going to talk about the difference in communications here. Are they going to get to his main point here? Let's see. Turning to Armageddon itself, which promises to shake up the entire Earth 616 line, quote, in a way not seen since Avengers disassembled. Zdarsky explained that I guess, unquote, Zdarsky explained that the upcoming event was always planned as, quote unquote, its own thing, telling his host, quote, it wasn't in Captain America and I pulled it out to turn it into this. This is like writing Captain America and realizing, in smaller quotes here, oh, after this could spring something out over here that's bigger, unquote. Quote, so we just went ahead and did that. It's weird and fun to just kind of come back to Marvel with Captain America, which is not normally, a top selling title, and then kind of quickly just kind of like basically present story ideas that build off of it that kind of become bigger, and then Marvel just kind of trust me with taking that forward, unquote. All right. Well, I guess he's just getting into like telling people, about some of these and how he approaches them. Again, nothing about his initial statement of communications not being as well off without Michael Bendis there, but hmm. Let's see. His game plan met with praise from Harper, who favorably compared it how Marvel Comics Brian Michael Bendis led 2003 to 2010 era near seamlessly flowed from Avengers Disassembled, then it goes into New Avengers, and then House of M, then Civil War, etc. Unquote. Zdarsky then turned to recall I guess now we're getting into where Brian Michael Bendis is in all this. Okay, Zdarsky then turned to recall recent discussion between himself and new Iron Man Volume 8 scribe Joshua Williamson regarding Marvel's current lack of a similar vision. Quote, I had an interesting conversation with Josh Williamson when he was starting out on Iron Man, trying to figure out Iron Man, and I guess at one point he just kind of asking around like, quote, what's the Marvel book that I should be reading that like lets me know what's happening in Marvel books, unquote. And there wasn't one really. Everyone's a little bit siloed off. The X Men stuff's very much X Men. Spider Man is Spider Man. Jed, uh, McKay, um, doing Avengers stuff that felt siloed off as well. So basically, what he's kind of pointing out is that there's no kind of there seems to be no inter house um, collaboration going on. There's not much in terms of like keeping everything. It's like everything's kind of like Spider-Man's doing his thing, X-Men's doing their thing, Avengers doing their thing. So that's what he, I guess, means by siloed off. They're not really interconnected, as at this point they probably should be. At least I guess in his mind. Presently, Marvel has 4 main offices, as respectively centered on the Avengers, Spider-Man, the X-Men, and soon ending Ultimate Universe, in parentheses there, with another existing solely to handle their Star Wars efforts, and under whose banner other heroes are variously assigned. For example, the Hulk's comic book adventures currently fall under the purview of the Spider Office, while the Fantastic Four are assigned to the X Office. Interesting. So basically, they have 4 offices: Avengers, Spider-Man, X-Men, and Ultimate, where the primary focus of each office is to handle the comics of those particular lines, and then whatever like secondary titles they have, they're assigned. I don't know if they're assigned randomly or whatever, but Hulk in the Spider office, Fantastic Four in the X office. So, and in Zdarsky's opinion, this lack of cooperation between the 4 teams is at least partially due to how, quote unquote, there hasn't been someone like Bendis who, quote, was really good at that, being the guy whose New Avengers you could read to know what's kind of happening, unquote. So he's saying that since Brian Michael Bendis left Marvel, they haven't really had any sense of any real cooperation, basically, or inter-office cooperation as much. What he's getting at there. Quote, and Hickman as well, when he was kind of building up his Fantastic Four and Avengers stuff leading to Secret Wars, like those are the books that you read to kind of know where the Marvel Universe is heading, and it's not to take away from any of the other books, like you have like great stories happening elsewhere. But when you kind of want the overview of where everything's going, there's usually a book to kind of look into and read and so oh boy, somebody needs to wake up in the editor's room. Quote in bracket for Armageddon unbracketed, I kind of pitched it a little bit as Captain America because the second arc that's starting up is very much bringing back Shield, and it's like post One World Under Doom, and I guess the state, not he state, the state of the world of Marvel, and that arc leads into Armageddon. So editorial wise, these guys are not paying too much attention to what they're putting out in these reports. Maybe their brain's getting fried a little bit. And the Weapons of Armageddon tie-ins. These are the titles that if you want to know what's happening and what we're building towards, these are the books that you read. You'll see all the characters, and they'll all come together and figure things out. Wrapping up his thoughts on the topic, Zdarsky ultimately asserted, quote, there are things in Avengers Armageddon where when I pitched it, people's eyes lit up in the room and they're like, and Small goes, okay. All right, that's great. And a lot of it's just stuff. I think when it happens, people will be like, quote, in small quotes, oh, of course, but also no one's going to see it coming, unquote. Quote. So it's my favorite kind of like comic book story thing, unquote. Alrighty then. So there we go with that. So that's the first article that we got through there. Let's see. 21 minutes. So yeah, I think I was right in picking 3 stories to cover, and I wasn't sure if it fill out the time with 3. Wasn't sure if, I think it looks like I might be able to. So, anyways, getting ready to move on to the next story then. And this is from, I guess, TV show news. Now, this one, when I looked at it, was going to be pretty quickie, anyways. So, let's get into this, because I think it's just simply an announcement of something, nothing really too detailed or controversial within it. So, let's see what's going on here. Paramount dumps Ren and Stimpy reboot, not helped by disastrous leaks. Article by J.B. Augustine, published January 31st, 2026, which was, of course, this past Saturday. So let's take a look at this, see what's going on here. That's kind of interesting. Stimpy cradles Ren, both voiced by Billy West, after he succumbs to space madness in the Ren and Stimpy Show Season 1, Episode 5, Space Madness, Nickelodeon. All the way back from 1981. So much for happy, happy, joy, joy, quote unquote. The needle scratched on that record, and the new era is officially dead, for it ever truly began. Paramount has finally put the struggling Ren and Stimpy reboot out of its misery, in parentheses, oh rapture, and what has become a recurring nightmare for fans of classic animation. The long gestating revival has been unceremoniously shoved into the corporate vault, joining the ranks of other lost media casualties. The final confirmation came straight from industry veteran Bob Camp via comicbook.com, in parentheses there, who revealed earlier this month that the project has been shelved indefinitely. This move coincides with the massive restructuring following the Skydance Paramount merger, in which the new regime seems more interested in tax write-offs and in reviving controversial icons, which no longer fit the corporate mold. Sound familiar, doesn't it? The writing was on the wall long before this official cancellation, particularly after the disastrous events of July 2024. And one of the most embarrassing security lapses in recent memory, nearly the entire first season leaked online, giving fans a premature, underwhelming look at what Paramount had been cooking up. Yeah, you just kind of hate the idea when somebody forces a spoiler on you when you don't want it. But then sometimes what happens is with such leaks, if if what's being leaked is not satisfying to the fans, then that becomes a bit more of a problem as well. The reception to that leak was far from glowing. Critics and fans alike pointed out that without the manic, storyboard driven energy of the original run, the new episodes felt sanitized. Not a good word you wanna do when you're trying to revive something, obviously. And strangely hollow. While the decision to exclude original creator John uh, Crickfalusi was necessary following the 2018 allegations against him, it left the production in a creative vacuum that it never quite managed to escape. Well, if yeah, when you stop relying on the person who originally created the franchise to help with the writing, to help modernize it, even from a consultant point of view, um, that usually is going to bite you in the end because obviously the guys who originally, I mean, we saw this, of course, with um, with Rick and Morty. We saw this with Rick and Morty as well, and then but we also saw it on the flip side too, where sometimes when you do get the creator involved and the show is a success, like with the live action of One Piece, right? That was one where they actually did listen, and Oda, the original creator of One Piece, actually did have quite a bit of say in how they presented it. But here, I guess Crick Falusi or whatever um, got himself into some trouble, I guess, and they got rid of him, and they got rid of basically the brains behind the franchise. That in a way, it's like basically trying to just let loose a headless corpse to to just let him do what he like letting loose a headless corpse and just let him flounder on his own there. I'm just only reason I'm going sound here. I just wanted to look this guy up a little bit here and try to see if I can find out what the accusations were actually. Oh, okay. All right. So that was the nature of the allegations against him. Anyways, not that we're gonna get too deep into that. I was just looking up exactly what was he being accused of. So just curious. Anyways, continuing on here with the but as I said, my main point being you know, you basically you kick out the guy who was the brainchild of the franchise, guy who knows the characters inside and out, regardless of the reason, and it is a hollow experience. It's going to be a hollow experience for fans a lot. Further complicating the situation was a bizarre international rollout where the show actually made a brief television debut in France, while Paramount's North American branch remained completely silent. The lack of marketing support, combined with production delays caused by the pandemic and health issues affecting the lead voice actor Billy West, created a perfect storm of failure. Paramount clearly saw the lackluster response to the leaks and decided that the Ren and Stimpy brand was more of a liability than an asset in the current streaming landscape. Instead of attempting to fix a broken product, the studio opted to bury it entirely, leaving the leaked, unfinished episodes as the only evidence that this lost season ever existed. For those who grew up on the grotesque brilliance of the 90s original, this sterile reboot served as a reminder that some classics are better left in the past. It seems modern studios are simply more concerned with spreadsheets than the quote-unquote space madness that made the franchise a hit in the first place. Yeah, unfortunately, we are dealing with a different time right now, in which stuff that we liked in the past, stuff that was successful in the past, is just not going to fly now because you got too many of these other factors going on. The wokeness, first off. The saying that's been popular the last 5-6 years, right? Go woke, go broke. Sounds like this is, because they said here they sanitized it. I don't know if that means that they basically wokeified it in their own way, taking away a lot of charm that was probably inherently part of it. But anyways, we got one more article. As I said, we're going to try to go over here. I'll go back to that. And it's, of course, going to be another comics-related article. Get to this in a moment here. And again, friendly reminder to everybody, if you haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. And feel free, if anything catches your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So with that being said, let's continue on here. A Flash writer, Mark Waid, not really interested in writing an absolute DC book, but does have, quote, an absolute dead man thing I would love to do, unquote. Article by Spencer McCulley published earlier today. And there's Dead Man and Batman right there. Let's see. Though generally averse to the idea of, in smaller quotes here, radically reinventing DC canon, on smaller quote, due to having spent so much of his career overseeing its initial development, current The Flash Volume 6 writer Mark Waid says that while he had no current plans to pen an entry in the publisher's fledgling Absolute universe, he's ready to go with a particularly interesting take on Absolute Deadman. Wade, whose notable contributions to DC's overall history include The Flash, Volume 2, Kingdom Come Volume 1, the weekly Post-Infinite Crisis Epic 52, Volume 1, and the current Batman Superman World's Finest, Volume 1. Offered his thoughts on the Darkseid created Absolute Universe during a recent appearance on the pop culture centric Word Balloon podcast. Amidst a larger discussion whose topics ranged from his current work on The Flash Volume 6 and Justice League Unlimited to Marvel and DC's upcoming Superman Spider-Man crossovers, a veteran comic book writer was at one point asked by host John Stunners at the Stunt Press, as to whether or not DC had, quote, approached you at all for any absolute ideas, unquote. To which he replied, quote, not really, because it's my job to help steer what we've got over here in the regular DC universe, unquote. Quote, I'm not sure that I would have an absolute take on some of these characters, unquote. He further noted, quote, because I'm just so invested in how I've been thinking about them for 60 years, unquote. However, despite his overall disinterest in overdosing on Omega Energy, the Legion of Superheroes Volume 4 then declared, quote, that said, I do have an absolute dead man thing that I would love to do, unquote. Quote, I don't know if anybody is doing anything with that, but I love that character. There's so much to be done with that character, and there's some dead man in my future somewhere, whether it's absolute or whether it is somewhere in the DC universe, unquote. Strange Adventures. uh, Kind of funny because Deadman's origin kind of is similar to one of probably my all time favorite anime, Yu Hakusho, with Yusuke Urameshi. Again, a case where, well, Yusuke of course wasn't murdered, but he was killed in action when he was trying to save a kid, and then he becomes a spirit detective in that one. But that idea of, oh, you're dead, and then you become the hero of the story right after you die. So, interesting stuff to say the least. Anyways, as we continue on with the story here. And far from his interest in the undead hero, stemming from finding him anywhere in the realm of boring, in smaller quotes there, Wade then proceeded to gush about just how much he loved the specific character of Boston Brand, beginning by claiming actually, Siontress. Actually, okay, I thought that was a T. That was apparently an I, though. Quote, but what a great character, unquote. Quote, circus aerialist killed by an assassin randomly as a test for an assassin's organization. How can you How can you kill somebody in a circus tent and still get away? And the god Ramakrishna um, didn't let him move on to the next level of existence. His job was going to be able to stick around as a ghost and find his killer. Quote, and to do that, he was able to possess people, sleep into their bodies, be them, and move. So I think that they meant to say slip, but they did another typo there. And move, and move through the world that way, which is a great take. Nobody had done anything like that before. It's very common now, very quantum leapish. Um, and for those of you who don't know what he's referring to there, going back to I believe it was the late 1980, I think 87 or so, with the show Quantum Leap that starred, of course, Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. Scott Bakula would go back in time and basically possess the body of certain people to kind of alter the past in certain ways. But that was a brand new concept in 1967, and it's great. It's a great, simple hook for a character, and I love it. Unquote. Quote, Arnold Drake, who created the Doom Patrol, created Deadman. The commonality there is these characters have character. These characters are personalities. These characters sound unlike anything else. He was a good writer. And for the first time with Doom Patrol, you're reading a DC team book where you couldn't just move all the balloons around and have anybody say anything because it didn't matter because they all sounded exactly the same. And in parentheses, last unquote. Bringing its history lesson to a close, the new history of the DC Universe, Volume 1, Scribe, ultimately beamed, quote, and with Deadman, the first Deadman story, there is just some brilliant dialogue in there. Quote, I don't want to quote anything, but because I'm going to get it wrong, but boy, it's a good story. Unquote. All right, so there we go with that. That's all the articles we're going to go over tonight. Let's see. 43 minutes. I think I'm making good time here for what I was want to get done tonight here. So let's see. So let's get into the wrestling wrap up. We'll kind of quickly try to quickly go over um, the um, the 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 weekend's events here from SmackDown, Collision, and Royal Rumble. So first out, going back to Friday Night SmackDown, if I can actually get to it here, I may have to. All right, yeah, we can. So on the go home SmackDown happened in Riyadh. Took place at the Riyadh Seaton Stadium at King Abdullah Financial District with Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on commentary. We of course kind of talked a little bit about preview. So Carmella Hayes successfully defended the United States title over Ray Phoenix. Ray Phoenix at exactly 14 minutes. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair defeated the Judgment Day duo of Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez, who had Raquel Rodriguez in her corner. Axiom, with Nathan Frazier in his corner, defeated Johnny Gargano. Ilya Dragunov defeated The Miz in singles action. Elliott trying to get some revenge on Miz for costing him the U.S. title the previous week. And an 8-man tag match for the main event on SmackDown. Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Randy Orton, and Sami Zayn defeated the Visions, Braun Breaker, Logan Paul, Bronson Reed, and Austin. Or actually, they didn't defeat them. They went to a no contest at exactly 13 minutes. So that happened on the Go Home SmackDown before the following night's Royal Rumble, and we'll look at that, and then we'll look also at, of course, so at the Royal Rumble, and some of the stuff that happened here did get some heat. So the opening match was the win. So the Royal Rumble, premium live event that happened from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, again from the Riyadh Season Stadium at King Abdullah Financial District, with, of course, Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on commentary. Let's see. The Royal Rumble itself was won by Liv. The women's Royal Rumble, anyways, was won by Liv Morgan. Some of the surprise entrances, as it were, Brie Bella made her return to the WWE, which I don't know if anybody really thought that she would, because, of course, being married to Bryan Danielson, that might be, who's currently under contract with AEW, that might have caused some problems, but I guess it didn't. You had a mix, of course, of not just the two main roster talents of Raw and SmackDown on there, but you also had some NXT talent on there as well. In fact, Sol Ruca, they're high on Sol Ruca. Sol Ruca made it to the final three of the tournament. So it actually, in the end, came down to Liv Morgan, Tiffany Stratton, and Sol Ruca. Tiffany Stratton, who made her return as well. Raquel Rodriguez was among the top four. Liv Morgan eliminated her, which some people are saying that could lead to some further friction between Liv Morgan and her Judgment Day team, stablemates of Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. That's all the big stories that came out of that one. Then Gunther defeated AJ in 24:04. Which basically officially, at the very least, as far as we know, officially it means that at the very least, AJ Styles is retired from as an in-ring competitor in WWE. Now, there's been some speculation that maybe he might be able to go to like AEW, but they haven't made clear if this is just some people are saying he's just simply retired from WWE. Some people are saying that he's actually his whole in-ring career is over. So I guess that story will play out over the next few weeks or what have you. Drew McIntyre successfully retained the undisputed WWE title over Sami Zayn in just under 16 minutes at 15 minutes 59 seconds. And Roman Reigns, now probably the one thing that got a lot of people upset here was Roman Reigns once again winning the Royal Rumble. As I think a lot of people are upset because with his status more as a part-timer, is he going to even be around to help build for a potential match where they seem to be going with it between him and CM Punk? Much like kind of what happened with John Cena last year. So, among some of the other big notes, of course, again, you did have some, I believe, had some recently promoted talent from NXT like OFME and and Javon Evans involved in the Royal Rumble. Royce Keys, the former Powerhouse Hobbs in AEW, made his WWE debut, in-ring debut. And there's still a lot of people wondering, well, where's Chris Jericho? A lot of people were thinking Chris Jericho was going to make his return to the WWE. Some people think that maybe Jericho might still be under AEW contract because they still have him on it. But Jericho himself came out over the weekend and mentioned something that he's currently involved in a film project, and that's why he hasn't made his return. And he probably won't be able to make his return till that commitment is done. There was also some talk that he's also on tour with his band Fozzy that we covered the other day. So that's pretty much all the and I guess what we can do too here is we can maybe look ahead to tonight's Raw real quick. Try to take a look ahead to tonight's Raw to see where we'll probably go with that. And then I'll go back to Saturday and look up the... So tonight's Monday Night Raw, coming from the Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia, PA, with, of course, Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary. Matches already signed for the evening include El Grande Americano, taking on Javon Evans in a singles match. Penta taking on the Vision's Bronson Reed. And in Philadelphia street fight for the women's world title, Stephanie Vaquer defends against Raquel Rodriguez. So, with a possible story developing, as right now the common belief is Liv Morgan's is most likely going to challenge Vaquer for the women's world title. I do need to go off camera for a quick sec, so I'll be right back, but I'll put some music on while I'm on. Just got to take care of something real quick here. I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Anyways, so now with all that being said, we do have one more thing to go back to talk about here real quick from Saturday. The Saturday AEW Collision as they continue to build towards, I think, Grand Slam coming up, at least in a couple weeks here, eventually Revolution later on. So, talk a little bit about that as well. So I find that. So this past Saturday's Collision, coming from the Esports Arena, or Esports Stadium Arlington in Arlington, with Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness on commentary. Darby Allin defeated New Japan's Clark Connors in the opening match. Making their in-ring debut, the Rascals, the duo of Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz with Myron Reed in their corner, defeated the team of Crew with Action Andretti and Leo Rush with Lacey Lane in their corner. In a mixed tag match, Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm defeated the team of Gino Medina and Lady Bird Monroe in a minute 45. In a match that was set up on last Wednesday's Dynamite, let's see, for the Mark Briscoe was defending the AEW TNT title, in which he was he had issued an open challenge with Tommaso Ciampa, making his AEW debut to the challenge Briscoe for the title, and Ciampa actually defeated Briscoe in 18 minutes 39 seconds to become the new TNT champion. Kazuchika Okada defended the international title against Adam Priest. Kazuchika Okada, of course, had Rocky Romero in his corner. And then in a match for the AEW Women's World title, the Babes of Wrath of Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale successfully defended the titles against the Sisters of Santa, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. So that's all we got, the wrestling wrap-up. Now with that being said, of course, today being Monday, February the 2nd, 2026, let's take a look back at this date in Meat's history. History! So 2011, 1946, and 2011. All right. So first off, we're going to head back 80 years ago, as on this date, 80 years ago, back in 1946, the Warner Brothers cartoon Baseball Bugs, starring Bugs Bunny, premiered on this date was released on this date back in 1946. So directed by Fritz Frayling, a baseball game takes place at the Polo Grounds in New York, featuring the Gas Out Gorillas and the Teetotalers. The former, a burly, intimidating team reminiscent of the real-life Gas House Gang, dominates the elderly players of the home team and intimidates the umpire with their aggressive play. Bugs Bunny, observing from his burrow in the outfield, becomes incensed by the unfair tactics of the Gorillas and challenges them. The Gorillas suddenly surround him and accept the challenge. So this is where Bugs comes in and it'll help the Teetotalers defeat the Gorillas. So 80 years ago today, the Looney Tunes short Baseball Bugs was released in theaters on this date back in 1946. Now, moving ahead to the year 2011, on this date in the year 2011, 15 years ago today, on this date 15 years ago, the 5th issue of Walking Dead Weekly from Image went on sale on this date back in 2011. Sold for $2.99 with 32 pages. So the 5th issue of Walking Dead, and this is a book where it ran for exactly 1 year, 52 weeks. It was a weekly book. So the 5th issue of Walking Dead Weekly went on sale on this date back in 2011. Sold for $2.99 with 32 pages. All right. So with that being said, now we got one more piece of Neat history before we wrap things up. 2011 is just so nice. We're gonna hit it twice. And also on this date in the year 2011, the following OVA specials were released on this date back in 2011. So Doga Koba's OVA, Shin Kohime Muso Otome Tairan Gokuen Sai Da Yo Zenin Shugo no Koto, was released in Japan on this date back in 2011. Also, The affordable special, The Garden of Sinners, Chapter 8 Epilogue, also was released on this date back in 2011. So 15 years ago today, Dogakova's OVA Shin Kohime Muso Otome Tairan Gokuensai Da Yo Zenin Shugo no Koto and Ufotable Special The Garden of Sinners Chapter 8 Epilogue were both released on this date back in 2011. So, with that being said, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. We'll be back here with more Niche News tomorrow, of course. And with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Oh, let me clear this part out first. All right. Bye.